If you have ever paid a vendor perfectly on time, waited a few weeks, pulled up your business credit report expecting to finally see something happen, and instead watched absolutely nothing change, then I need you to stay with me because this video is going to explain exactly what is going on behind the scenes. For 90 straight days, I did something that honestly bordered on obsessive. I tracked every single vendor account I had, every order, every payment. And most importantly, I logged exactly when and whether each one of those vendors actually reported my payments to the business credit bureaus. Not what they promised, not what the internet said they do, what they actually did, measured day by day. And what I found completely changed the way I build business credit. And by the end of this video, it is going to change the way you build yours too. So let me take you back to why I even started this, because I know a lot of you are living in the exact spot I was in. Like most business owners, I was doing everything I had been told to do. Open your net 30 vendor accounts, buy from them, pay your invoices on time, watch your business credit grow. It sounded so simple. So I did it. I opened my accounts, I made my purchases, and I paid every single bill on time, sometimes early. And then I waited for the magic to happen. And here is what actually happened. Almost nothing. My scores barely moved. Some months I would check and there was zero change, like I had done nothing at all. Then out of nowhere, another month, my PAYDEX would suddenly jump several points for no reason I could see. There was no pattern I could point to. It felt completely random. And I want to be honest about how that felt, because I think a lot of you feel it too and just do not say it out loud. When something feels random with your money and your effort, you start to quietly wonder if the whole thing is even real. You wonder if business credit is just some game that works for other people but not for you, or worse, if you are doing something wrong that nobody bothered to tell you about. That doubt is the exact feeling that makes people give up right before it would have worked. And I refused to quit based on a feeling. So I made a decision. Instead of guessing, instead of reading one more blog post full of vague advice, I was going to measure the whole thing myself and let the actual data tell me the truth. And let me make this concrete because I want you to feel how ordinary this trap is. I would sit down at the end of a month feeling good about myself because I had paid every invoice on time and even paid a few early. In my mind, I had earned a reward. So I would log in, brace for that satisfying little bump upward, and the number would be exactly, frustratingly, the same as the month before. Not lower, which would at least have made sense as a punishment. Just flat, unchanged, as if a whole month of disciplined payments had evaporated. Do that 2 or 3 months in a row while doing everything right, and I promise you, it starts to mess with your head. That is the exact moment most people quietly decide business credit is a scam and stop, right at the edge of it working. Because nobody ever showed them what was happening underneath that flat line. So here is exactly how I set it up, because I want you to see how simple it was. I opened a spreadsheet, and I listed every single active vendor account I had, one per row. For each vendor, I logged 3 things. First, the date I placed an order. Second, the exact date I paid that invoice. And third, the date the payment actually appeared on my business credit report as a trade line. Then I committed to checking my reports on a regular, consistent schedule, and I did not skip. No shortcuts, no assumptions, no filling in blanks with what I hoped was happening. Just cold, honest observation for 90 days straight. And I will be transparent about what I expected to find, because it is probably the same thing you are carrying right now. I assumed there was some kind of standard rhythm. I figured most vendors reported roughly once a month, and that if I just paid on time, a nice clean line would appear on my report a few weeks later, and my score would climb steadily like a staircase. That was the mental model in my head, a tidy, predictable, monthly system. And within the first few weeks of actually watching the data instead of imagining it, that clean little model completely fell apart. What I was looking at was not a staircase.
It was something far messier, far more staggered, and honestly, far more interesting. And it explained every frustrating thing I had experienced. So let me walk you through what the 90 days revealed, finding by finding.
The very first thing the data showed me is the single fact that explains most of the confusion people have about business credit. There is no universal reporting schedule. None. Every vendor marches to its own drum. When I lined my accounts up side by side, the differences were dramatic. Some reported like clockwork, once a month, on a cycle you could set a calendar to. Others reported only once a quarter, which means I could pay an invoice perfectly and then wait as long as 3 full months before it ever showed up. And others reported on some rolling internal cycle that did not line up with a calendar month at all. Same behavior from me, completely different timing from them. Just sit with what that means because it reframes everything. When you pay a vendor and check your report a week later and nothing is there, you have not done anything wrong. That vendor might simply be a quarterly reporter and you are 3 weeks into a 90-day cycle. You were on time, you were perfect. The system is just slower and more staggered than anyone ever explains. So much of the panic people feel is really just them checking their report during the silent gap between reporting cycles and assuming that silence means failure when it actually means nothing except wait. Which leads to the second finding, and this one was a genuine mental shift for me. A paid invoice is not the same thing as a reported payment. In my head, when I paid the bill, that was the finish line. But paying is only step 1 of a much longer chain. After you pay, the vendor has to send that payment data to the bureau on their schedule. Then the bureau has to receive it, process it, and post it to your file. Every step takes time, and none of them happen the instant your payment clears. Across my accounts, that entire cycle, from the moment I paid to the moment it appeared, typically took 30 to 60 days. And for my quarterly reporters, even longer. So if you pay today and check tomorrow, of course it is not there. The work you did is real. It is just sitting in a pipeline you cannot see. Now the third finding is the one that will save you the most money and heartbreak, so pay attention. Some of my vendors never reported at all. Not late, not slow, never. There were vendors I paid faithfully, on time, sometimes early, for the entire 90 days, and there was simply nothing from them on my report. Ever. Which means every ounce of that perfect payment behavior built exactly nothing for my business credit. I was doing everything right and getting no credit for it, in the most literal sense. Really absorb what that means, because it changes how you think about every vendor. You can do everything right. Open the account, buy the products, pay early like a model customer. And if that vendor does not report, you get 0 credit building value from all of it. This is why I now tell everyone the most important question about any vendor is not, do they offer net 30? Almost everybody offers net 30. The real question is, do they actually report, and to which bureaus? And you confirm that before you spend a single dollar, in writing, straight from the vendor. The fourth finding finally solved the mystery that started this whole experiment. Remember how my PAYDEX seemed to jump for no reason? Once I had 90 days of data, the reason was obvious. My score was never climbing a little every day like I imagined. It would sit completely still for stretches, flat as a table, and then jump the moment a batch of payments got reported and posted all at once. So those jumps were never random. They lined up almost perfectly with my vendors' reporting cycles. The score moves when the reports land, not when you pay. And once you understand that, you stop panicking during the flat stretches because you know flat does not mean broken. It just means a jump is coming. And the fifth finding tied a bow on it. Paying early is genuinely powerful. With Dun & Bradstreet's PAYDEX, paying ahead of the due date is one of the only things that can push you toward the top of the scale. But my 90 days made the condition clear. Early payment only helps on accounts that actually report. Paying early on a vendor that never reports is just a generous gift to that vendor and nothing for your credit. So match your very best behavior, your early payments, and your consistency to the accounts you have confirmed are keeping score. That is where your effort compounds. Everywhere else, it just evaporates. So now let me pull all of this together into something you can actually use. Because the entire point of me spending 90 days on this was so that you would not have to. Here is the real underlying lesson of the whole experiment, and I want you to hold on to it. Building business credit is not random and it is not broken. It only feels that way. What it actually is slower, more staggered, and far more invisible than anyone ever explains to you. The vendors report on wildly different schedules. The payments sit in an unseen pipeline for weeks. Some accounts secretly report nothing at all. And your score moves in sudden jumps that line up with reporting cycles rather than with your effort. Once you can see all of that clearly, the whole process stops feeling like a slot machine and starts feeling like what it really is, which is a system with a rhythm you can learn. So here is the exact system I want you to run, built directly from what the data taught me. Step 1, and this is the big one. Before you open any vendor account at all, confirm in writing that they report, and confirm exactly which bureaus they report to. Ask them directly and get it in writing. That single habit completely eliminates the never-reported problem that quietly wastes so many owners months of perfect payments. If a vendor will not clearly tell you they report, treat that as your answer and move on. Step 2. Keep a simple log of your own, exactly like I did. You do not need anything fancy. Just track the date you ordered, the date you paid, and the date the trade line finally appeared on your report. Within a couple of cycles, you will actually learn each vendor's personal rhythm, and you will know whether a given account is a monthly reporter or a quarterly one. That knowledge alone will save you an enormous amount of anxiety because you will always know whether you are waiting normally or whether something is actually wrong. Step 3. Be patient through the flat stretches and expect them. When you open a new account, give that trade line a full 30 to 60 days, and sometimes even longer, before you decide it is missing. Most of the time, silence is not failure. It is just the pipeline doing its slow work. The owners who quit are almost always the ones who mistook a normal quiet stretch for proof that the whole thing does not work. Step 4. If a payment still has not shown up well past that window, 30, 60, even 90 days out, depending on the vendor, that is your signal to follow up. That is when a quiet gap might actually mean you are dealing with a non-reporter, and you want to catch that early rather than after a year of wasted payments. And step 5. Pay early, but concentrate that discipline where it counts, on the accounts you have already confirmed are reporting. Your early payments are one of your most powerful tools, so do not waste them on vendors that are keeping no score at all. Aim your best behavior at the accounts that actually feed your profile, and let it compound there. Here is what I want you to walk away believing, because it is the truth underneath all of this. The people who succeed at building business credit are not smarter than you, and they are not luckier than you. They are simply the ones who understand the rhythm and refuse to quit during the quiet stretches. They know that flat does not mean broken. They know a jump is coming. They verify their vendors, they keep their logs, they pay early on the accounts that report, and they let the slow, staggered, invisible machine do its work in the background while everyone else gives up too early. That patience, built on understanding instead of hope, is the entire game. And if you want to make sure that every single payment you make from here forward is actually building something, it starts before you ever open one of these accounts. It starts with the right foundation, your entity, your EIN, your DUNS number, and your bureau registrations all set up correctly and consistently. I put that entire step-by-step foundation into a free checklist for you, and it is the very first link in the description. Go to fundabilityhq.com/free-checklist, grab it for free, set your foundation the right way, and then let your reporting vendors do their quiet, powerful work. Do that, and 90 days from now, you will not be confused by your report. You will understand exactly what you are looking at. I will see you in the next one. One more thing before you go, because I do not want you to overcomplicate this. You do not need a fancy system or expensive software to do what I did. A single free spreadsheet and the discipline to check it on a schedule is genuinely all it takes. The advantage was never in the tools. It was in the awareness. The moment you can see the rhythm, you stop reacting emotionally to every flat month and you start playing the long game with confidence.